Hi, Dennis Regling here, and here's a question. Some people are a little confused on. What were the Testament sacrifices about? I mean, it's not that God is thirsty for blood. Okay, that's one of those internet village atheists fantasies and caricatures which shows they don't really know much about the Bible. In most cases, severe moral violations were punishable either by death or exile from the community. Offenders were cut off, which could mean the death penalty or being expelled from the group. If someone wanted to live a certain way, or pledge allegiance to another god, they were told, go do that now, which was a frightening prospect. There was no sacrifice for adultery to grant forgiveness. There was no sacrifice for the sin of idolatry. There was no sacrifice for many things. The options were exile or the death penalty, depending upon how one interprets different passages. This highlights the deficiency of the law and the superiority of the gospel, as it's later described, of course, in the book of Hebrews. The sacrifice of Christ covers everything. There's no gradation or division. The blood of bulls and goats did not forgive sin. The writer of Hebrews knew what he was talking about. We misunderstand because we tend to invert the relationship between the Old and New Testaments. The forgiveness language of Leviticus is about making a person acceptable to re-enter the system of worship after becoming ritually defiled, not morally defiled, through unavoidable life events, such as losing blood, or seminal emission, or menstrual periods, or touching a dead body, or giving birth. All these things made people ritually impure, even having a skin rash or imperfection. This system was designed to prevent the defilement of sacred space. Now, people would bring an offering, wait a certain amount of time, go through procedures, and then be allowed to approach sacred space for worship. This had nothing to do with forgiveness for moral violations. Even for things like stealing, there were reparation offerings, often translated as guilt offerings. These required making restitution. Forgiveness in this sense meant acknowledging the wrong, making amends to those harmed, and then being allowed back into the system. Essentially, a reset. Annually, the Day of Atonement provided a larger reset. There's a lot to unpack here, but I just want to introduce some basic ideas. The Levitical offerings were mainly about protecting sacred space and making people fit for it, so that they could be functioning members of the community and worship the Lord. The system taught people the difference between themselves and God, emphasizing the protection of sacred space and imparting theological lessons. There's a logic to the Levitical system. As Harper's Bible Dictionary notes regarding Leviticus 4, which is the sin offering, its purpose was not to atone for any kind of sin, as the name might imply. The blood was never applied to people. Crimes against others were dealt with by appropriate punishments outside of sacrifice, while deliberate crimes against God could not be sacrificially atoned for at all. The sin offering cleansed the sanctuary or impurity to purge and protect it. I like to use the word decontamination for what's happening here. Okay? The point is, this is about cosmic geography. Eden versus anti-Eden. Yahweh against the other gods. Yahweh's domain versus everything that's not. There are sacred space and cosmic geographical concepts at work. Sacrifice itself is about decreation. There's a logic to killing an animal. It's a substitution, at least in the case of the Passover lamb, which, by the way, is not a part of the Levitical sacrifice system. The idea is if you want to return to sacred space, an animal dies. Its blood purifies the space. You wait, then you're accepted. Ultimately, This teaches the Israelites that if you want to be in the presence of God, you must be fit for sacred space. Entering God's space defiled violates the order of creation. There's the creator and the creation, God and you. You were created to be part of his family, fit for sacred space, but rebellion and sin have caused separation. Redemption is needed to restore that relationship. We're on the way to restoring Eden, but we're not there yet. Ground rules and ideas must be reinforced because you are no longer, by default, in sacred spaces in Eden. To have that status restored, to be fit for sacred space, something needs to be decreated. Sacrificing an animal acknowledges that the Creator gave it life and is now receiving it back. The animal is being decreated so the person can occupy sacred space without tarnishing. The Creator accepts the person. But something is lost in return. There's a cost to the loss of Eden and to restoring it. The cost is illustrated through decreation or sacrifice. It's not that God is thirsty for blood. That's an internet village atheist fantasy and caricature showing a lack of understanding of the Bible or the Levitical sacrificial system. It's about creation and decreation. The Creator surrendering or decreating something to reestablish the relationship and teach that there is a cost to all of this. Thank you for watching. Please, if you like videos like these, comment, let me know. Like and subscribe. That helps me. Um, and you can find many articles at www.godeeperbiblestudy.com. Again, I'm Dennis Regling, and I thank you.